know her best from My Fair Lady, The Prom, and soon Flying Over Sunset. Please welcome Kate Marilley.
Hi, Brooke.
Hi,
How are you?
good. How are you?
It's so nice to meet you virtually. This is so weird, isn't it, to do interviews like this? Oh, but at least we can be in our places of residence and we can be in our pajamas if we want. I'm like half in my pajamas, half not, full disclosure.
I want to talk about how you got started and then the prom and all that
Okay. So my parents were actors. So I kind of grew up in the industry already from like child, like baby age. My mom was, I have like distinct memories of being in my mom and dad's dressing rooms, and they would kind of like transport me from one dressing room to the other. My mom tells the story of when I was really young. My dad brought me into one of her shows. I think she was doing a Shakespeare play. I think it was Twelfth Night or maybe Julius Caesar or something. And he brought me in to see my mom like on stage, and it was a full show. Audience was there and everything. And I was up in the balcony, kind of like behind a curtain. And my dad brought me in when I was very young. I would say probably one or two, or whenever I could first start talking. And I saw my mom on stage and I screamed, "Mommy!" And it completely like she deer in headlights was just like she heard my voice. I actually remember, I don't know why I have like a weird child memory of remembering my dad going, "Uh-oh," and like dragged me out of the theater. So I've been around it for so long. So they got me interested in performing, mainly acting first. When I was really super young. And I started dancing when I was about 2 or 3 at Orange County Song and Dance Company in Southern California, which is where I'm originally from. I'm from Los Alamitos, Huntington Beach area in California. So I started tap and ballet and jazz when I was super young at Orange County Song and Dance Company. I started private voice lessons when I was super young. With my private voice coach, Jan Ritchell. And basically I was pretty hooked really early on, but I was also into sports too. So I was a competitive gymnast, which kind of taught me, I always say this to people who ever like ask about professional industry and like how do you prepare for, the industry and how rigorous it is and how tough it is, with rejection and, auditions and stuff. I always say that being a competitor when I was younger helped me grow that thick skin so that I let it roll off me when I call it when I lose an audition. I don't say I didn't get the job. I don't know why, but I always say I lost or oh, I won the gig. That's just weirdly my competitor mind. um so I was a competitive gymnast from like age 3 until I was 16. And I was highly ranked. And I think that kind of formed me as a stoic um, personality so that I could push through obstacles without getting too bogged down by them. Um, let's see what else. I went to a performing arts high school at the same time as I went to a regular high school. So I went to 2 high schools at the same time. Isn't that strange? Um, yeah, I went to Orange County High School of the Arts. They call it OSHA. And then I went to Los Alamitos High School at the same time. And I did show choir at the regular high school. And then I did musical theater and commercial dance at the Performing Arts High School. So I was deeply involved in performing basically around the clock my entire life. And throw that in like almost like a stew, like a soup, throw in, going to Orange County Song and Dance Company and going to high school and then also going to private voice lessons. And then I went to I went to group classes at the Actor Studio in Los Angeles for acting and stuff when I was about 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And, I learned like a mishmash of things from a variety of teachers, instructors, but also my peers. So I felt very lucky that I was constantly around people that would teach me things and I could learn from them, which is something I always tell my students, because I'm a master class teacher. I always tell my students, you're never done learning. You're the learning process is a constant line, and it fluctuates. Just because you finish school, or you finished a show and you're like, oh, I did great in that, doesn't mean that there isn't another challenge down the road that you will learn from. And it's not always learning from your teachers, but it's learning from each other, and from your director, but also from your fellow actors on stage, from your stage managers, from students. I learn from my students just as much as they learn from me. So that's kind of something I always want to impart early on in any kind of like talk, is that you're always evolving, you're always learning, which is kind of what's fun about the entertainment industry. So basically, I started performing professionally when I was 11 in The Secret Garden. Do you know that musical?
I've heard of it, but I'm not that familiar with it.
Okay, so when you have time at some point in your busy schedule, go on to whatever website, or just go onto YouTube and type in the original Broadway company of The Secret Garden and listen to the first couple of songs. It is the most beautiful score. I've done the show twice now, once as the lead when I was 11 years old, and then once recently, a few years ago, as an adult. And it still is one of the most beautiful shows I've ever done. And I think every young person should hear this music. So homework. So I started when I was 11 professionally. And then I did a few shows when I was 14, 15 in professional productions. I was in the ensemble, and that taught me a lot. Like, I learned a lot about what not to do and about like professionalism. You have to make mistakes to learn how to not be backstage, or like what you're supposed to do, what not to do. And then I was lucky enough to go to college at one of the most prestigious places in the nation, country, world to study. I went to Carnegie Mellon University for School of Drama, and I also studied in London at the London Academy of Dramatic Art, which my mom also went to, coincidentally. So I studied in those two places, as well as performing professionally, which was just as important in terms of education as it was going to school. So, just because you go to school, if you can, obviously school is very important, but if you can also do creative things like shows and being in the ensemble and learning from professional atmosphere, it is just as important as it is going to school. And I did a television pilot for Nickelodeon when I was 11. So that kind of introduced me to the TV film world, which was super different. It's like night and day different, but also under the umbrella of entertainment. It's a very strange world, TV and film. So that's kind of it in terms of education. I graduated, and then I moved to the city pretty much like 2 or 3 weeks after I graduated school, and slept on my friend's couch. And that's when I started basically the world of New York City auditioning, which is terrifying. That's kind of it. I think that was like the skim over. It's the skim over.
What was your Broadway debut like?
Oh, wow. My Broadway debut was technically was My Fair Lady at Lincoln Center Theater in 2018. Although I did the Broadway Chicago company of Billy Elliot, the musical, and that was not in New York City, it was in Chicago, but that was also a huge deal for me because I was working with Elton John and, these incredible artists, and I learned a lot from that. That was an exciting moment in my career, was doing that show. I would love to do that show again. But my Broadway debut was My Fair Lady, and it's one of my favorite shows in the entire world. And it was kind of a dream come true, because of all the shows I could choose from, I think that one was probably top 5 of my favorite musicals to ever perform. And at a space like Lincoln Center, which is, sorry. Oh my God, did you hear that? My cat is going crazy. He's insane. He always gets excited when I'm Zooming or when I'm FaceTiming. He thinks it's a show about him. He's a very unique little animal. Anyway, so if you watch me go like this, it's because he's scaring me. My Fair Lady at Lincoln Center Theater. And I was in the ensemble. I was featured as one of Higgins' maids in the show. And I think there were only 4 or 5 of us that were featured in that way. And then I played the groom in Get Me to Church on Time, which also was a featured part. And then I covered the principal role of Mrs. Pierce. And I covered the featured role of Mrs. Hopkins. And I have to say that anyone's dreams of going to Broadway and being on Broadway for the first time, it is every bit as magical and as exciting and as cathartic as you would think it would be. The dream that you always wanted. And there you are standing on the center stage of one of the most beautiful theaters ever. Lincoln Center is an incredible space. And I remember, I call it my Broadway moment, was when I was standing during tech. It was tech rehearsal, but it was dress tech. So we were in full costume and wig and makeup and everything, doing the number. It's called the Ask It Gavotte. I'm sure, do you know, it's like every duke and earl and, we're all like positioned so beautifully in these gorgeous costumes. And it's the first time Eliza is going to be introduced to society. And we all enter in these just stunning dresses and suits and hats, like massive hats and parasols and all jewelry. I had I have this choker of pearls and that draped all down me. It was it couldn't get any better than that. And we were tired. We were standing on stage being lit by our lighting designer, and we were exhausted. It was 10 o'clock at night, and we had another hour left. And we didn't realize that the orchestra was right below us, and they were going to just kind of have a practice session. And we were all standing there a little bit, tired and disgruntled. And we didn't want to be in our 3.5-inch heels anymore and these tight corseted dresses, as gorgeous as they were. It was tiring to wear them for hours on end. And all of a sudden, we were all standing on stage being lit. And the orchestra starts playing the overture because they're tuning up. They're going to practice. And that was perfect time, right? So they start practicing the overture, which is one of the most beautiful overtures ever written. And I remember all of us, there was 25 of us on stage, all standing there, looking, doing our poses for the lighting designer. And they start playing the overture, and it was time stopped. And I suddenly realized where I was and how lucky I was to be standing where I was, and that my dream had come true. And this beautiful music is soaring through this theater, and I'm in this costume, and I'm on the stage that I always dreamed of being with these incredible artists. And we all kind of felt it, and we all suddenly got so emotional. And some people were tears were streaming down their face. And the people like me, whose Broadway debut was happening, it was such an incredibly magical moment for me. So that was probably my first moment of realizing and how lucky I am and how grateful I am to have been there. So that was my Broadway debut moment, I guess.
So then after My Fair Lady, what, did you continue performing before the prom?
I did. That's a great question. I actually did 2 shows at once. Which I don't think I ever want to do again. And I'll tell you why. It's very exhausting splitting your energy and your time between 2 very important productions. And we're only human, right? So we only have enough fuel and energy to give yourself as well as your job and everything. So to split it was a little more challenging than I thought it was going to be. So I did My Fair Lady, and I had started rehearsals for the Prom on Broadway about 2 or 3 weeks before I left the show. So I was doing, as they call, double duty for about 2.5 weeks. So I would get up at like 7:30 in the morning and go to rehearsal at 10 a.m. for the prom, and doing crazy hip hop choreography. And I was also covering, the leads. I was covering Beth Leavel and Angie and Mrs. Green, as well as being, one of the dance captains. And then I would leave at like 6 o'clock to go to my evening performance of My Fair Lady. And if it was a matinee, I would leave at 1 o'clock for a 1:30 half hour. And it was, I shouldn't complain, because how lucky was I to be in 2 shows at once. But I learned a valuable lesson to never, I was so tired that I didn't feel I could give my full 100% all the time to both shows. I did the best I could, and I took naps in between shows, and I was did the best I could to retain that energy. That was hard. So I learned my lesson. See, we're always learning. But I did 2 shows at once, and then I left My Fair Lady. I think it was the first week of October of 2018, and we were about to go into tech for prom. So I left right before we were going into tech for prom, and then I started tech for prom after I had basically bid farewell to my Fair Lady family. We started tech for prom, and then I was there full time, and that was a very a challenging process too, because it's a brand new show. It's never been done before. I mean, we'd had the out of town tryout in Atlanta and everything, but it's very different from doing a revival like My Fair Lady, which has been around for decades. Prom is this brand new, sparkly, show that no one really knows what's going to happen with it. We all know My Fair Lady is amazing and excellent and gorgeous and riveting and has such weight to the show. Prom is a little bit of a question mark, because people who hadn't seen it in Atlanta, nobody really knew what to expect from it. So we had to kind of gird our loins and be like, okay, let's hope that people will get on board with this wacky, beautiful, hilarious, important show, which it's such an important show, I think.
I know that on the week of opening, you went on for Beth Leavel. Do you take notes, like, for the people that are actually playing the roles?
How do I learn the role? Is that what you mean? So here's the thing with Dee Dee Allen, who is Beth Leavel's character, also is basically Beth's alter ego. It's based on her. I had done the out-of-town tryout for the prom in Atlanta at the Alliance Theater. So I kind of already knew, and I covered the role as well in Atlanta. I never went on in Atlanta, but I'd learned the role well enough then, in terms of course, the script changed quite a bit from then until Broadway. That was 2016, and then 2018 is 2 years later. So it changed a lot, and it changed through previews. By the way, the script changed all the way until I think it changed like all the way up until like a day or two before we opened, where they call it's frozen and you can't change the show anymore. But basically I had the blueprint, that's what I call it, the blueprint for Dee Dee Allen already in my mind. So it wasn't like I was learning a role that I'd never really done before. But like I said, it had changed a lot. So my process for covering, for understudying, is during tech, I am watching them like a hawk. I am up in the rafters, out in the balcony with my other fellow understudies / swings. And I am watching Angie, Dee Dee, and Mrs. Green, as well as the other 2 featured ensemble roles that I understudied. But mainly I was focusing on the roles because, when you're in the ensemble, you can have some guidance and some help. But if you're on for a star role and it's just you up there, it's a little different. So I had been watching Beth very closely. It's just part of my brain. I think I just kind of compartmentalize. I have it. It's kind of like, think of it as a file cabinet. I have my Dee Dee file in my brain, and then I move to the next one is Angie. And so whatever I'm deciding to focus on that day, I take that file out. And that is what I don't look at any other role or track that I cover. It's like a beeline on only on Dee Dee Allen. So yeah, I wrote down tons of notes. She exits stage left, then she curves around, back up stage to go upstage right for her re-entrance into scene. She grabs prop this, she gets it from this stagehand. That's all stuff that you have to know. The backstage choreography is just as important, if not more, than it is on stage. Right? I wrote down so much stuff like, they have numbers on the stage. And, I would look at Beth is on 0, and then she moves to left 2, which is, stage left on 2, or left stage left on 4. And it looks like she's in the middle of wing 1. And that's how I would learn her blocking from watching her from the balcony. So I would watch her a lot during tech, and then during previews, the understudies and swings really weren't allowed backstage because things were still shifting, and it was a very small space back there. So I think it could be very dangerous if you were standing in the wrong place and got hit by a set piece. It was very tight. Some parts of it is about as big as my living room, frankly. So I couldn't really learn her backstage choreography. So I learned all of her onstage stuff as best I could, as well as learning Angie and everybody else. And then on the seventh preview, I was thrown on for one of my featured ensemble tracks. My colleague and friend, Courtney, injured herself on the 7th preview in the middle of the show. And I was up in the balcony watching and realized that she didn't come back on stage. And I suddenly went, something's wrong. And it takes a minute, by the way, to get back downstage, to get all the way down backstage. And so my phone was blowing up, going, Kate, we need you backstage. I'm going, I'm coming. I was like, this is when you need a fireman's pole, just to like shoot all the way down there. So I'm running down these stairs, like 5 flights of stairs. And then I had to like hurry. I was in the theater. I had to like hurry quietly because there was a show going on. I had to like hurry behind the orchestra section and exit outside into the alley to come back in to go backstage. And so I was thrown on mid-show for Courtney's track, and I had no costumes yet. And I hadn't learned, I mean, I knew her track, I knew it, but I never rehearsed it, never done it. So like, oh, this will be interesting. I had no makeup on my face. What did I say before? We are still learning, right? I was as barefaced as when you wake up in the morning. I had not a stitch of makeup on. My hair was in a bun on the top of my head, and this is what I looked like. It was like, and I swear to God, Rick, I had nothing to wear. So, and they were like, we have to get you on stage now. And I went, but they were like, just go. I was wearing, this is what I look like. Imagine my hair is on Broadway. I had no fake makeup on. I had on I think like a peach colored t-shirt and my jazz pants. And they had nothing to give me. So I was on stage in the Applebee's scene like that on Broadway. And my director, Casey Nicola, was in the audience, and he came backstage during the intermission, and he was laughing. He's like, what are you wearing? And I went, my clothes. And he went, you have nothing to wear? And I went, no, I have no costume. I haven't had a costume fitting. I have nothing. He's like, you don't have any wigs ready? I went, no. So just Kate looking like I am right now on stage. Luckily, the Prom is a contemporary show, so I could get away with it. Can you imagine if that happened in My Fair Lady? That wouldn't work. So that was my introduction to the show. So cut 2, I was on for Courtney's track, the Olivia Keating role, who she starts the show. I don't know if you've heard the soundtrack. I did that track for about 5 weeks up until opening. So I opened the show and everything. Opening night, I was on for the B-roll and all that stuff. And mind you, I had been watching Beth and those guys as best I could from like the wings and stuff, and when I was on stage with them. But I could never watch their backstage traffic because I was doing a track, I was doing a role. So I never got to learn what they do backstage. So the big story is we had opening night, big success. And then I think that was a Thursday, and then Friday. Thursday night we had a blizzard. Our opening night was a blizzard, so it was lots of snow, and a few of our stagehands couldn't get in from their homes in Jersey, and some theater critics couldn't come in either. So they were going to come in that weekend to review the show. So cut to Saturday afternoon, matinee. We just opened on Thursday night. Saturday matinee, I was still on for Courtney's track. Come into theater, do your regular stuff. I had no idea that Beth had not been feeling well. And nobody knew except for, specific people. And but she was going to push through because, that's Beth. Beth is possibly one of the people I look up to the most in this industry. She is everything beautiful and wonderful and awesome about this industry, and nothing that is bad. She is just a true professional, wonderful human being, crazy talented. She's just like my beacon, as a human being, but also as an artist. Anyway, so the show is starting. Back up stage, when the curtain is down, the whole show starts with the gosh, it's been a minute, Eleanor Roosevelt's musical, The Roosevelt Story. And we're about to start the interview and the song Changing Lives. And we were on stage, places had been called, everyone was getting on stage ready for the show to start. And the stage managers say standing by, which means the orchestra is going to start playing the overture in about 30 seconds. And, to get your props, make sure you're ready to go because we're going to start the show. So they said standing by. And that's usually around the time that I pat Beth on the shoulder, because Beth is right here, because I'm about to interview her. She's right here. And I go, have a good show, Beth. Beth looks at me and goes, and I went, don't talk to you? Or thinking to myself, oh my God, is she mad at me? What did I do? And she looked very strange, and she looked nervous, and she was doing this, little move. And then Brooks Ishmanskis, who originated Barry Glickman, runs across the stage and goes, are you okay? To Beth. And she looks at him, looks at me, and the orchestra is about to start, literally, like within maybe 30 seconds or less, and looks at me, looks at Brooks, and just says, I'm gonna vomit. And I went, what? And she ran across to the wing, stage right, and made it to the stairwell. And then, I always wonder if this is too much information because, it's pretty graphic, but she fell on all fours and, came vomited and she was lucky enough to there was a trash can. And she went into the trash can, and all I remember, she's in this stunning silver sequined gown, and she's on all fours, just, clearly not well. And it was like time stopped again. It was like everyone on stage froze, stage management froze. We were like, what's happening? And I remember stage management calling Meg, our conductor, our music director, and saying, don't start the orchestra. They do it on a telephone. Don't start the orchestra. Don't start the orchestra. And so Meg stopped playing because the curtain was about to come up and no one was there. Beth wasn't there. So I just remember standing there going, and by the way, I'm the only understudy in the building because the other understudy was Courtney, who had injured herself, and she was out for 2 months. So I was it. And it didn't occur to me that this could be a problem because I'm the only one in the building. And everyone is like wondering what was going to happen. And finally, I had friends come up to me and put their hands on my shoulder and say, you ready? And I went, ready? She's going to be fine. Beth is going to be fine. She's going to get it out of her system, and then she's going to come back and do the role. It's all good. And they all kind of looked at me and went, Kate, no. I was completely in denial. And stage management comes up to me and goes, can you go on? And I looked at them, kind of thinking it was I was panicking, but also thinking it was a joke. And I went, oh, yeah, sure, okay. And they went, no, can you go on? And I suddenly got very serious, and like a cold rushed over me, and I went, Yes, yes, I can. And all I remember is the only way to get to my dressing room was through the stairwell, which is where Beth was. And I very carefully tiptoed over my friend and my idol as she was still very ill. And I remember she looked up at me and she just went, "I'm so sorry, Kate." And I went, "It's okay. I'm fine. You get better. It's all good. Don't worry about me." Of course, I'm like terrified about what's about to happen. And I ran upstairs, and all I remember, it was suddenly like tunnel vision, something like everything just clicks. And I remember being in my dressing room and they were like, "What do you need?" I said, "I need David Josephsberg." David Josephsberg, he was another understudy with me, one of the male understudies. And we had become very close friends, and we had helped each other, like, rehearse and stuff. And I said, "I need David, and I need him now. I need him to come to my dressing room, bring his script. We're running lines." By the way, at this point, it was like 2 o'clock and 2:05 maybe. And the show was supposed to have already started. And I was upstairs they ripped my microphone off my head. They put Beth's on my head. They ripped my blonde Olivia Keating wig off my head. They threw Beth's wig on me and, started pinning it to my head. And finally, I'm running lines with David over here. And I was like, "How far do you want to go?" I was like, "Let's just get through the first scene," which is a very long scene, and the first song. And then he's like, "Well, what do you need from me?" I said, "I need you to follow me like you're on a leash, and you don't leave my side until I go on stage, and then you be right there in the wings." That's what I need. And he's like, "Do you need your script?" And I went, "No, I'm ready. I'm off book. I'm ready to go. I've never done this. I'd never rehearsed. I never sung the songs with an orchestra ever, even in Atlanta. I had never worn her stuff. It was very strange. And I didn't know what her backstage choreography was. So I was thrown on. And all I remember is suddenly they said, "Okay, we're going to start putting you in Beth's clothes." And I said, "No, we don't have time. It is at this point now, it's like 2:10, 2:15. And little did I know, Brooke, that while all this was happening, Brooks Ishmanskas and Christopher Sieber, who played Trent and Barry, had gone out to the front of the house and were talking to the audience and was saying what had just happened. And that the understudy, Kate Marilley, is going to go on, and she's never been rehearsed. She doesn't, has never sung these songs. She's a rock star, but just know that that is what is about to happen. So you will not be seeing Beth today, but Kate is amazing, and this is a true Broadway moment that rarely happens, where an understudy is basically turned into the star role at a drop of a hat. So people were excited. I was terrified, and all I remember is the curtain went up, my back was facing the audience, and then I turn around and they say, "The incomparable Dee Dee Allen." And what I didn't realize was my friend Gabby Campo, who didn't cover Courtney Ballin's track, was just thrown on for her Broadway debut. It was happening at that moment for a track she didn't understudy. And I look at her and she looks at me, and I go, in my head, I went, "What is happening?" And all I remember is I turn around and the audience was so incredibly kind and wonderful. Some of them got to their feet and were applauding when they saw me turn around, and they were with me the whole time. It was an incredible day. And it's weird. I knew what I was doing, and it was kind of like, I don't know, it was kind of like somebody put a chip in my head, and I was like on robot, and I just knew exactly where to go, and I knew all my lyrics. And there were a couple of scenes that were had been changed only a couple days before, and but it went really well, and I was on for like 4 shows in a row. My parents got to come that night, and at that point they had gone to Macy's or Saks Fifth Avenue and bought me a whole bunch of costumes because I had nothing to wear. So all I wore was this red dress, the only dress I had. And so I wore it for the entire show, one dress. And what I didn't know were the critics who couldn't come for Thursday because the blizzard were there watching me. And they were so excited by this Broadway moment that they reviewed me. And a few of them called it the matinee of the red dress.
Ah,
because that's all I had. And it was a really amazing moment. I think that might be the most amazing moment I've ever had in my entire career, because people, you hear this, it's some people's worst nightmares, right? You know, you turn around and I don't know, it's like you're suddenly being thrown in a show in your dream and you're like, I don't know the lines. Or like, I don't know the choreography. That really happened. And it's exciting, it's scary, but the thing I always say in interviews is always be ready. Don't think that just because the person you're understudying never calls out, people say that a lot. Oh, they never call out. Okay, it doesn't matter. You got to be ready to go, because Beth never calls out. Beth is an iron horse. She is steadfast. She is solid. She is a rock star. And then that happened. And if I hadn't been ready, I would have been a lot worse. But that is always to young artists and young professionals, is to always be watching the people you understudy at all times, because you could be joking around on stage and missing what a director is telling the person you understudy, and then maybe you're on the next night. So that is always something that I try to urge to my students and stuff. So that's basically it, I guess. That's basically, there's probably more in there that I don't remember.
So then you also went on as Mrs. Green and then Angie?
Yeah, yes. It's been a while. I think I went on for Angie next. So I only went on for Angie once, because Angie Schworer, who is Angie Schworer is Angie. She's another iron horse. They're old school, where they don't call out, because unless you are like unable to move or unable to get there, they are true professionals, they're just such strong, incredible women. Angie is another one right up there with me, for Beth. She is somebody I've learned so much from. And a little intimidating, more than a little intimidating, to go on for the role of Angie, who literally is Angie Schworer, and to play at being my friend Angie. It's very strange. And I was wearing her wig from the Atlanta run. So that's the wig they gave me. And some costumes they gave me that were hers from Atlanta, which was it was just so weird. I was wearing her stuff and it was very funny. I went on for Angie one time. My parents got to see me go on, because she only called out for one show out of almost a year of a run. And so I was really lucky to have gone on. And I think that my favorite part is the obvious. I mean, I got to do Zaz, on stage. I got to it's one of my favorite numbers in the whole show. And my friend Caitlin Kinnunen, of course, who plays Emma, is she's just, you could just feel her love and her energy off of her when you're on stage with her. And she was so excited that I was on, and I was so excited. So it was like two friends doing this dance together and kind of giggling for real. It was a really special day to go on for Angie. And let me tell you, those shoes that she wears are so high. I think that actually, hold on. Here, I'll show you something. I show this sometimes. I always forget that I have them. I can do this here. Let me show you my understudy shoes, which are right here. Wow. So these are my understudy shoes, and these are my Angie acceptance shoes. And these are my Angie, I think those are finale. And then I have another pair of black ones. Anyway, they let us take them when we closed on Broadway. And so I wear them sometimes for auditions or something. Those shoes are 4.5 inches, which I wear heels in life, but to move or dance in those, that is so hard. So I applaud Angie Schworer for doing that 8 shows a week and not cracking an ankle. I was like, how are you doing this? Doing Zaz with your leg and, doing all these fussy moves in 4-inch heels. Crazy. So I learned a lot there. And then I went on for Mrs. Green. My friend Courtney Collins was the third and last role that I understudied that I went on for. And I went on for her, I think in February. And then that role ended up being the role I went on for the most. just because Courtney took a vacation and her family lives in Atlanta. So she wanted to go back to visit her sons and her family. So I got to go on a lot for Mrs. Green, which was really great because surprisingly, that was the role I was the most nervous for. Because with Dee Dee Allen, you know, I can belt my face off. I can sing, you know, I'm quirky and funny and I can, you know, do comedy. I can be, you know, tall, stunning Angie and do zazz and, you know, put my leg behind but Mrs. Green is completely acting. It's all, and you kind of feel alone in that role, you know, because you're not the villain, but you are the villain of the show. You know, people always say she's the villain. Well, she's really not. It comes from a place of love, but yes, to the person who's watching the movie or watching the show, she's the villain. So it's kind of a lonely road on that role on that stage playing her. And you know, to get really emotional at the end and basically have everybody hate you on stage and in the audience. I remember once I was on and I was booed. They were like, I was like, oh my God, are they gonna start throwing things? You know, it's a weird, it was a weird feeling going on for Mrs. Green. But the one I'm the most proud of, weirdly, because I got to conquer a fear, which was basically do a role that was on Broadway that was basically completely acting. She doesn't really sing very much at all, if at all. So that was another what do you call it? Check. I felt like I succeeded in that towards the end of the run. It took a few roles, full times on, but that was a hard part to do. And Courtney Collins is another, I have to say, I've said this before, and how extremely lucky I am to have understudied those three women, not just the roles, but I wish every one of my colleagues and peers could be as lucky as I was to learn and to watch these three incredible women who, International Women's Day is tomorrow, by the way. And whenever I think of who do you look up to, of course, you're my mother and my grandmothers and my teachers that, you know, have taught me over the years. But like, well, what professionals, you know? Oh, easy. Beth Leavel, Angie Schworer, Courtney Collins. I mean, those three women could not have been more warm, more kind, more inviting. When you understudy somebody, there's always the worry that sometimes you cover roles and you can sense with an understudy that they're a bit closed off or cold to you because it's an insecurity thing, because they're worried that the understudy is going to take the role or the understudy is going to play my part or something. You know, it's always that feeling. Not once did I ever feel that with those three women. What questions do you have? Here, follow me. Here, let me show what this is. They were so secure and confident in who they were that they didn't even worry about me. That was an incredible experience to have. I felt that they were in my corner, you know, that they wanted to help me be better. And that's rare. It really is. So what else? I feel like I got off on a tangent.
So I know that you're the assistant dance captain of the prom, and
Yeah.
I know that you were on one episode of Dance Moms. How was that like?
Oh my gosh, I forgot. That was weird. It was so weird. Yeah, I was. Gosh, I forgot about that. I'm a huge fan of Dance Moms, PS. So when I was asked by the press department, hey, Kate, do you and Jack wanna, yeah, I don't know if you're interested. I know it's this day. Do you want to maybe do this on Dance Moms? And I went, what? And they were like, yeah, Abby Lee Miller and all the girls are coming and the students are coming, their parents are coming to see the show. And I went, what? I was so excited. So weirdly, yeah, that was a really exciting day. To meet Abby Lee Miller and to meet these young dancers who are incredibly talented and to coach them and to watch them dance to one of our songs, you know, and then win the championship with it, you know, that was really cool. nerve-wracking because Abby Lee Miller is very intimidating, and you're like, oh God, is she gonna hate me? But she couldn't have been kinder and more warm. She was lovely. She was very nice, and the mothers were very nice. The kids were great. Everyone was great. It was a really great experience. And yes, assistant dance captain was a challenge. It was one of those challenges that I think is important, just like swinging. I think that if one has the gift to swing, or to dance captain, I think it's always good for them to try it, to do it once, so that you understand when you do another show how hard that job is, so that you always respect your fellow swings, and you always respect your dance captains, because once you've done that job and you realize how challenging and difficult it is, then you can always relate that when you yourself are being given notes by your dance captain, and remembering what that is like and how challenging it is to have to give your friends notes on things that they need to do better in the show. It's always a very awkward thing, but I thought Jack Sipple and I did as good of a job as we could have done, and we worked together pretty well, and I respect him a lot. He was dance captain, so I was basically his wingman, and supported him through all of his cleaning rehearsals that we had to have every few months, which is part of the job. You have to keep the show clean, and he did a great job with that. But it's a hard gig. It was a hard job to do. I'd never done it before, so.
I know that your new project is Flying Over Sunset. What is that all about?
Oh, golly. That's a good question. Okay, so not many people know about this show because, once again, it is completely original and completely new. So, and by the way, Brooke, anytime I'm talking, feel free to interrupt me, ask a question or clarify, because I'll just keep talking and just, blah, 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 blah. So just be like, wait, what does that mean? Or feel free to barge on in and be like, wait, can you clarify this? So like the Prom, we had an out-of-town tryout in Atlanta, and we had a lab. Do you know what a lab is?
Kind of.
A workshop.
Oh yeah.
So basically what it is, there are different levels of the industry, of the process of creating a new show. Usually it starts off with obviously the writing of the show and all that, but then when you bring the actors in, it starts off with a reading, like a sit down reading, and then a staged reading, and then you'll do something called a lab or a workshop, which is when you basically don't have any costumes or really very minimal props and set, but you are up on your feet and you're doing the full blocking, choreography, everything as if you were on a stage. But with Flying Over Sunset, there had been one lab, which I was not a part of. And I'm guessing some readings here and there over the years, which I coincidentally enough, I think Beth Leavel actually did one, because she told me, she was like, oh, I think I did that one like years ago. I was like, oh, so it's been around a while. But really it's not known. Nobody really knows what this show is about. At least with the Prom, you could go back and look at Atlanta Alliance Theater, clips of the show or whatever. But with Flying Over Sunset, there is nothing to refer to. Which is also hard for when you're auditioning for a show and you literally have no idea what you're auditioning for. Like, I had no clue what this was. And I was given the audition, and I was like, oh, Claire Booth Luce. It's based on real people. Claire Booth Luce was a conservative member of Congress and an ambassador to, oh golly, I'm gonna put my foot in my mouth. She was an ambassador. Terrible. I don't remember which country. I'll get back to you on that. And then Aldous Huxley, who is an author and a brilliant mind. And then, of course, Cary Grant, who's a famous film actor. Basically, what it's about are these three people who, back in the 50s, 60s, I think it was in the 60s, experimented with the drug LSD. Okay, it's been a year since we've done the show, so I'm probably gonna mispronounce it. Oh my God, I think it's hilarious you're recording this. Like lysergic diethylamide, lysergic diethyl LSD, lysergic diethylamide. That's what it is. That's why they call it LSD, because it's so difficult to pronounce. So LSD is a drug. It's a hallucinogen. You should not take it. No drugs. Kids don't do drugs. But LSD in the 60s was used for a lot of psychiatrists, psychologists. They would give LSD to their patients to help them open their mind and to help them deal with depression and grief. So that is what the drug does. It's kind of like you're in a you're hallucinating in a dream state. And what the show is about are these three, or four, Gerald Hurd as well, who basically do the drug together, and their experience on the drug. And it's about grief and how one deals with grief and what the drug does to help you get closure and to help you move on from, example, Claire's daughter, Anne, died in a tragic car accident when she was 20 years old. And coincidentally enough, her mother, who's also named Claire, is Austin, but we call her Austin. She also died in a car accident. So Claire is dealing with so much, a lot of darkness and guilt and sadness and grief and depression, so that LSD actually helps her connect with her spirits of her dead mother and daughter, and helps her move on. And Cary Grant has issues with his younger self and with his father and with his mother. Aldous Huxley, his wife died from cancer, and they were madly in love. So that has been a moment of grief for him, and how to deal with her passing. So what it basically is about is grief and how one deals with it. And the drug LSD is basically the center of the entire show. And when I say I've been lucky with 3 incredible shows on Broadway, oh wow, this one is super special. It is a true art piece. It is like, when I say art piece, there are, shows like Sunday in the Park with George, Grey Gardens, Bridges of Madison County. These are shows that are not commercial productions. The Prom is a commercial production where it's like, great. But this is like, dives into some serious stuff. And the music is like so beautiful. It's like so gorgeous. I remember when I was auditioning for the roles to understudy, I'm a standby, an offstage cover, which means I understudy the star role of Claire Ruth Luce, who's played by Carmen Cusack, who is incredible. And then I cover the role of Austin, who is her mother, and I cover her daughter, Anne. And then I cover Maria Huxley, who is Aldous Huxley's wife, who had passed on. I remember they gave me this 15-page song, which is the title song, Flying Over Sunset. And I was like, this is going to be a lot to learn. 15 pages is a lot. And I remember thinking, I couldn't stop listening to it. I couldn't stop singing it. I was like, this is such an incredible song. I was like, I want to do this show so badly. If I am lucky enough to get a call back, oh my God. And then to work with James Lapine, Michael Corey, Tom Kitt, like these are brilliant, genius artists. And I mean, James Lapine is, a legend with, he did Sunday in the Park with George, he did Into the Woods, he's falsettos, like he's an incredible director and author and book writer. So I, once again, am beyond lucky, beyond grateful to be in this show. And we were about to start previews when Broadway shut down. It was that night that I think it was a Thursday, and we were all getting ready. We had like our first preview outfits because we had the party afterwards. And I remember my friend Danny, who was also an understudy with me, Danny understudies Cary Grant. And he was like right behind me. And he goes, Kate, I think we're shutting down. And I went, what? He was like, come here. He like showed me this article. All of our friends are on stage acting. And I'm going, this isn't real. Is this really happening? And then we had a meeting and they told us, and there's going to be no audience tonight. So we did an invited dress rehearsal with our friends and stuff, but like we had invited people that we knew to come in and watch the show, but like we had no idea. We had no idea what this pandemic was actually going to be. We thought we'd be back, end of April. Cut to a year later, here we are. But it's a stunning show. It's a beautiful show. I think there are some clips from a press day that we did, if you want to listen to them. I think they're out there because we did a press day. But we're coming back. So I'm really excited. I feel once again really lucky.
Do you have like a particular dream musical or role play?
Oh my. Well, Chicago is like my beacon. That's what I really want to do someday. I really want to play the role of Velma. I'd be happy to play Roxy, but Velma's more where I gravitate towards. So that would be on Broadway or regional. I don't really care where it is. I'll do it in someone's living room. I want to do the role. Gosh, there are so many. I want to play Irene Malloy in Hello Dolly. I love that show. Gosh, it's such a good show. It's one of my favorites. I have the movie on demand, and whenever I'm feeling down or blue, I swear to God, I turn on Hello Dolly, and it always makes me feel better. Always, just listening to "Put on Sunday clothes" just makes me so happy. So I want to do that show someday. I've done a couple of dream roles already, which I feel really lucky. I got to play Lola in Damn Yankees, which was a dream role. Definitely one of the top 5. So the fact that I got to play it already is really exciting. And I got to do a role that I really wanted to do because I was in love with the movie since I was a child, was White Christmas, playing Judy Haynes, played by Vera Ellen in the movie. I always wanted to play that part. So I feel really lucky that I got to do it twice. And but I think I'd love to play, it's going to be a little out there, so bear with me. I've done the musical Cabaret. Do you know Cabaret? Mm-hmm. I would love to play Sally Bowles, but the role I really want to play is I want to play the MC. I want to do an androgynous role that can be played by a man or a woman. And I think that would be really kind of like how the revival of Pippin had my friend Patina Miller played the leading player, which is usually a lot of the times played by a man, but she played it and she was phenomenal. And I was like, ooh, I like that. I like that you can, change it up and it doesn't have to be a man or a woman, frankly. So I'd love to do that. I always, I should think more about this. Every time somebody asks me this, I always go, oh, I don't know. Oh heavens. Are there any other questions? I'll think about it. I think there are more. There are more roles I just can't think of any other at the moment. That's terrible. There are so many beautiful shows and I can't think of any more than that. Oh, I'd like to play Carmen's role in Bright Star. I'd like to play that role. I think that'd be a really challenging role to do. What about you? Do you have any dream shows, dream roles that you want to play?
Well, my school, like 2 years ago, I got to play Chip in Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, it's a great role and such a beautiful show.
Yeah. And my school really, really wants to do Mamma Mia so bad.
You could play Sophie. You could play the lead girl, right? Or do you want to play one of the older roles?
No, I mean, actually I found Beth Leavel because of Mamma Mia. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot she's done that. She's done so many incredible things. Actually, when I'm older, when I'm more mature, I'd like to play her role, the drowsy chaperone. My God, that show is possibly one of the most hilarious shows I've ever seen, is the drowsy chaperone, for sure. Um, Pretty much anything Beth does, I'm like, I want to play that someday. So wait, you're a freshman right now?
Mhm.
Okay. I keep forgetting what year we're in. It feels like 2020 never happened. So I feel like, how old am I? Do you want to do this? Is this something you're thinking you want to dive into professionally and stuff someday?
Yeah, actually, my cousin is like a singer and goes to Berkeley, but I don't.
Berkeley Music? Oh my God, it's a great school.
Yeah, but I don't really want to do singing. I really like theater a lot.
Okay.
So that's what I really like. But like I actually had like a meeting with my teachers and they wanted to know like what I wanted to be. And I said a teacher and then my mom looked at me and she said, "Tell them what you really want to be." And I said I want to do like what you do.
You want to be an actor?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, and there's nothing to be, I don't know. You should embrace that because this is something that it brings people together, and performance and art, and the thing I could tell you to do, Brooke, would be, like I keep saying, is, I mean, you're probably so busy with school and you've got so much going on, but when you have time, is to like research new shows and listen to soundtracks from original companies, and really start finding what scores, meaning musical scores, and also plays that you love. Read plays, read as many classical plays as you can. Really, really never stop learning on your own. Yes, of course, when you're in school and all that, but a lot of it will come from you and from your own journey in terms of how you educate yourself on I feel like I just watched a movie the other day that I'd never seen before. And I, like, once again, I'm still learning. I'm watching these movies and watching some of my favorite actors do incredible things. And, I always say, oh, I'm going to put that in my back pocket. You're taking from, you listen to a specific way an artist or an actor sings a song. Okay, I love the way they sing that. I'm going to adapt that for when I sing it. Or, interviewing with somebody and you hear stories about, listening and like putting that in your back pocket. Like it's always, it's an, what do you call it? An infinity pool of knowledge at your fingertips. And that's the beautiful thing about the internet is you can literally watch movies and watch live streaming of our shows. I wish the prom was live streaming. I know it's available at Lincoln Center, but obviously you're not here. So I haven't seen the movie yet. I will see it. I will. Um, but I think that if this is what you want to do, then you need to do it. And don't let anybody tell you differently. You know, don't let anyone sway, oh, well, maybe you should go to school to be a lawyer. If that's what you want to do, cool, be a lawyer. But also, why can't you also train to be a professional actor? Do you like plays as well as musicals?
I do, but I'd rather than be comedy than be dark.
Yeah, comedy. I love that. Comedy, comedy is a lot harder than drama. Did you know that?
No.
Because, oh yeah, it's so much harder. Because when you're on stage, if you're doing like some dramatic show or play or musical and you're like really emotional, you don't know if the audience is with you or not because they don't have to make any noise. But when you're in a comedy like The Prom, if no one's laughing, that's a little awkward, right? Luckily, watching Beth Leavel and Angie and Brooks and all the Christopher Sieber every night, I swear to God, it was like I was back in school again, learning a full comedy class from those four. What I would give to watch those four do that show again. It was a gift.
What's your advice for not necessarily like singing, but like singing like the character? Like if you went on for the role of Angie, do you kind of like use what she kind of uses in her voice?
I do. I do. I find that the people 9 times out of 10 who originated the roles, especially if the roles are written for them, um, it's important to, I'm not Angie Schworer, but my job is to, as best I can, to portray her the way she portrays it. Not only because that's the way the role was written, but also because my fellow actors on stage expect that. So if I were to decide to do something different in Zaz, because I feel Kate would do this differently, that's not really professional and it's not really appropriate because that's not Angie. That's not the way Angie does it. And Caitlin, who plays Emma, is going to be expecting what Angie does. So, I usually, when it comes to singing, there's only so much you can do vocally. I would say that thinking about it, when I went on for Ange, I think pretty much I sounded like her as well as what I was told. But my voice naturally, when I sing that song, naturally has a bluesy, jazzy tone. It's just natural in my voice. There's not really much I can do about it. So I think my voice naturally carried a little bit, sounded a tad different at certain moments because my voice is not exactly like Angie's. Mine is a little deeper, a little richer. But for example, when I went on, compared to that, when I went on for Beth, I can tell you right now that there is no other way to play Dee Dee Allen other than playing it the way Beth does. So I was screeching for the high heavens, going, changing lives, the way she is, constantly like ladies improving, you kind of have to sing it the way Beth does. I basically did everything exactly the way Beth does because she's so brilliant. But like she would hold that note, ladies improving. So my goal, anytime I was in understudy rehearsal or anytime I was working on it, was to hold it as long as Beth could. I never could hold it as long as she did because her lungs are like steel. Like I don't understand how I would time her with every night. I'd be like, my God, once I think I feel like she held the note once for 30 seconds. And I was like, how in the world do you do that? Some people can do jump splits and can do triple turns. Beth Leavel can hold a note for 30 seconds. So that was always my goal. But I think it's important when you're covering a role, the best you can is to play it the way they do and to try, if the role requires a certain voice change, to do the best you can. Now, sometimes you can't because you're not that person and your voice is going to sit naturally where it sits. But I think it's important to do the best you can to pay homage to the person that plays the role. And definitely with blocking and choreography, because you want to be doing what the director did. So for that role.
Wanted you to do like understudying instead again like the lead character?
Well, it's not always our choice. It's a stepping stone. So a lot of the times the understudy it's our opportunity. It's very hard in this industry to be chosen for the lead on a Broadway stage because there are so many talented people out there. And if you think about it, there are only so many Broadway shows and there are thousands of talented actors and performers. So basically understudying is, I guess you could say, is what's the hardest job in the business. Swinging and understudying is the hardest job in the business, and I've done both. And I played the lead in shows, and I can honestly say I'd rather be the lead than understudy, because understudy, you have to constantly be ready, constantly be on the edge of your seat, ready to go. You can never falter. You're kind of expected, even when you're on, you're expected to slay it, to kill it when you're on, because your fellow actors have been doing the show for however many months, and they expect the exact same thing that so-and-so does every night. So that's very hard to do. Of course, if I had my choice, I would love to play the lead role, and hopefully someday I will be. But it's, like I said, it's a stepping stone. It's kind of like you're given, I don't know how to explain it. It's it's like you're given an opportunity to show what you really can do. And if you're given that opportunity to go on and the directors or whoever are out there watching and they see it, it's kind of like you're auditioning all the time. And was when I went on for Beth, that one show, the critics were there. It was kind of like validation that I'm really good at what I do. And it was my opportunity to show my star quality, to show how great I am. I was never going to replace Beth because number one, Beth Leavel is incredible and it's her role literally that's based on her. And she's a Tony Award winner, and I'm also not age appropriate, frankly, to replace her in the role, but to cover is different. But it's an opportunity to kind of get up to that level, to play the roles. Beth was an understudy. Beth was a swing. So was Angie. We all started there. Very rarely are you just given a starring role and, you start at that point in your career. Usually you start in the ensemble. You start in the ensemble. You start as a swing or an understudy and you work your way up. So, yes, to answer your question, I would love to be able to be like, Kate, would you like to star in this show? I'd be like, well, yes, I would. But I also am aware that I'm getting to that point. I feel like I'm entering with Flying Over Sunset. I really feel this show is so important and it's a very different challenge for me. And I think I'm still on the incline in terms of getting to the next step. But these are important steps to take. And I also feel if I'm lucky enough to be a starring role on Broadway, maybe get a Tony nom or award noms or whatever, or win, it's important to know where you started. And it's important to know how it took to get there so that you're always humble and you're always gracious. And you're also aware that this is a journey that is fluid. Sometimes it's on an incline and then it plateaus. And some people feel like you degress or regress, but it's a wave, and it's to enjoy the ride as best you can. So if you're on the ensemble, don't think that you can't be the starring role someday, because you can if you want to.
Thanks. Where can people follow you?
Oh, well, Instagram, as you found me. My handle is at Kate Marilley. I am also on Facebook. And I'm not really on Twitter right now. I have an account, but I'm not really on it. So really the main place to follow me, to see what I'm up to is Instagram, because I'm on there pretty much every day and people can direct message me or follow my account or ask questions and stuff. And that's the best place to contact me.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can't wait to see what other stuff you do, Brooke. Like there's so many things that you can do, and my gosh, you're a freshman. Use these 4 years of high school. Use these 4 years. You'll be amazed when you're a senior to see how far you've come in those 4 years. And I'm excited to see what happens with you. And whenever you decide to go to college, and if you have a college auditions, like reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about them. And college is an important step, I think. So be sure to start thinking about schools that you might want to come visit and take a look at. Carnegie Mellon is one you should look at. Shameless plug of my school. Thank you so much, Brooke, and we'll keep in touch, okay? Bye. Okay, and bye.
Thank you so much for listening and watching to My World with Stories podcast. For more info, go to Instagram and Facebook at My World with Stories podcast, and make sure that you give us a like, a subscribe, a follow, whatever you want. Do it because we love you guys so much, and thanks for hanging with us. Bye!